Why is the United States actively preparing for conflict in the Southern Caribbean? To understand this, we need to look at the rapid reactivation of Cold War-era infrastructure that has sat dormant for decades. Start with Roosevelt Roads Naval Station in Puerto Rico. Once the largest United States naval base in the world, it was officially closed in 2004. Today, multiple reports indicate the facility is being rushed back into operational status. What was once a civilian zone is now being converted into a forward operating base capable of supporting large-scale military operations. Then there's Henry E. Rolson Airport in the United States Virgin Islands. This is no longer just a tourist gateway. It is being transformed into a logistics hub designed to handle heavy military transport aircraft and sustained supply flows. So why now? There are two primary triggers. First, Russia and China. Intelligence assessments suggest Moscow and Beijing are not merely visiting Venezuela diplomatically. They are attempting to establish permanent military footholds. From Washington's perspective, this crosses a red line. It represents a direct challenge to the Monroe Doctrine, one the United States considers existential and non-negotiable. Second, oil. The economic phase of the conflict has already begun. United States Coast Guard helicopters have been spotted intercepting and seizing oil tankers departing Venezuelan waters. This is classic pre-war behavior, strangling cash flow before kinetic operations begin. If hostilities erupt, which United States naval assets are already positioned near Puerto Rico? The Navy has assembled a deliberate kill chain. The pressure doesn't stop from the north. To the south, the United States is leveraging Trinidad and Tobago to seal off Venezuela's escape routes. The Navy is using these waters to blockade the Gulf of Paria, closing the back door. Here enters the USS Gravely, acting as a hunter and sentinel. Its mission is to ensure no Venezuelan submarines or fast attack craft slip into the Atlantic and threaten shipping lanes. Above them all sits the command ship, the USS Lake Erie, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. This vessel functions as the air defense commander for the entire operation, coordinating every aircraft and ship through its Advanced Combat Information Center. So how would the United States deliver the opening blows? Air power. B-52 Stratofortress bombers would fly directly from the continental United States, launch massive salvos of cruise missiles, and return home without ever landing in the Caribbean. Alongside them, B-1B Lancers would conduct high-speed, low-altitude strike missions, hitting hardened targets before Venezuelan forces could react. And this is why Roosevelt Roads is so critical. It places tactical aircraft just minutes from Venezuelan airspace. MQ-9 Reaper drones would loiter overhead for hours, tracking mobile missile launchers and destroying them the moment they move. F-35 stealth fighters would serve as the door kickers, penetrating airspace undetected to eliminate S-300 air defense systems, clearing the way for follow-on strikes. Then come the V-22 Ospreys. Speed and flexibility define their role. Launching from both the USS Iwo Jima and Puerto Rico, they would insert special forces deep behind enemy lines. All of this firepower requires fuel. That's where KC-130 aerial tankers come in, orbiting near the combat zone to keep fighters in the air for hours at a time. And war cannot be fought without logistics. C-17 cargo aircraft would fly non-stop into Roosevelt Roads and Henry E. Rolson Airport, delivering ammunition, armored vehicles, supplies, and troops needed to sustain prolonged operations. So is an attack inevitable? When bombers are on standby, amphibious ships are in position, and forward bases are being reactivated, it suggests the decision may already be moving from planning to execution. Next, we examine possible scenarios and counter-strategies from both sides. U.S. Navy destroyers, submarines, amphibious groups, Marines, and P-8 Poseidon aircraft are now positioned around Venezuela in a layered strategy designed to confront both the Venezuelan military and powerful drug cartels operating within the country. From Washington's viewpoint, the operation blends constant surveillance, precision strikes, rapid amphibious assaults, and maritime interdiction to apply overwhelming pressure on the Maduro regime. Destroyers provide air, sea, and missile defense while retaining the ability to launch precision cruise missiles deep into Venezuelan territory. Their missile defense posture allows them to intercept hostile aircraft or missiles, while anti-submarine warfare systems secure the task group's perimeter against underwater threats. In surface combat, they counter militia boats or naval vessels attempting to disrupt blockades or landings. As their name implies, destroyers are heavily armed, each carrying roughly 90 missiles within their vertical launch systems. At the bow, you'll find a Mark 45 deck gun, followed by close-in combat defenses and a CRAM missile system. But that's only the beginning. These ships also carry Harpoon anti-ship missiles and torpedo tubes designed to counter underwater threats. And if that still isn't enough, they operate Seahawk hunter-killer helicopters, equipped with sonar and torpedoes, something we'll break down further in an upcoming video. These warships are built for destruction and defense, but they are not designed for invasion. That's where amphibious assault ships come in. These specialized warships are engineered to deploy and sustain ground forces during military operations, especially in hostile or contested environments. They resemble small aircraft carriers, but their core mission is different. Instead of fixed-wing aviation, they focus on launching and supporting helicopters, vertical or short takeoff and landing aircraft like the MV-22 Osprey and F-35 Bravo Lightning II, along with amphibious landing craft. Each amphibious ship carries thousands of Marines trained for rapid expeditionary raids and full-scale amphibious assaults. These forces would conduct precision strikes against cartel strongholds, regime command centers, and critical coastal infrastructure. Their urban combat training allows them to seize airports, communications hubs, and other key nodes, potentially coordinating with opposition elements operating inside Venezuela. Now enter the nuclear-powered attack submarine. Operating silently along Venezuela's maritime approaches, it gathers vital intelligence by intercepting communications and tracking naval activity. It can also deliver sudden long-range missile strikes to disrupt command and control, blind air defenses, or destroy hardened military facilities. Just as importantly, its presence deters any third-party naval reinforcements from actors like Russia or Iran, complicating efforts to reinforce the Maduro regime. Overhead, P-8 Poseidon aircraft expand the task force's eyes and ears across vast distances. They conduct persistent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions deep over Venezuelan airspace and surrounding waters, tracking air defense sites, troop movements, and cartel smuggling routes. These aircraft work closely with surface ships and submarines to designate targets for missile strikes and monitor undersea activity. They also conduct electronic warfare, disrupting Venezuelan communications and command networks and, sharply limiting the regime's ability to respond. But why is a single submarine such a massive threat to an entire navy? The answer lies in its torpedoes. Here's how the process works. First, pressurized air launches the torpedo toward its target. Second, a piston engine driving propellers accelerates it to high speed. Third, the torpedo trails a guidance wire connected to the submarine's fire control system, allowing real-time navigation updates. Fourth, it reaches speeds of roughly 32 knots, with an operational range measured in several miles. Fifth, as it closes in, the guidance wire is cut, and the torpedo's onboard sonar takes over. Sixth, if the initial attack misses, the torpedo can circle back and begin actively hunting the target using its sonar. Each of these torpedoes carries an explosive payload equivalent to 1,200 pounds of TNT, a weapon no surface ship wants to encounter. Reports also suggest newer variants, including Barracuda-class or super-cavitating torpedoes, may represent the next generation of upgrades. So how would Venezuela attempt to counter U.S. control of the seas? While both the military and cartel networks prepare to defend the regime using a mix of conventional and asymmetric tactics, Venezuela's armed forces, though smaller and less technologically advanced, rely heavily on local terrain knowledge, layered air defense systems, and large-scale militia mobilization. Estimates place these militias at over 4.5 million personnel, intended to counter amphibious landings and protect key infrastructure. The military employs coastal patrols and missile systems to challenge U.S. naval operations and threaten incoming aircraft and ships. Meanwhile, cartel groups, deeply entangled with elements of the security apparatus, use fast boats, smuggling routes, and dense jungle terrain to complicate maritime interdiction. Their tactics include blending with civilian traffic, using irregular routes, and exploiting terrain to evade raids. The likely conflict scenario therefore involves layered U.S. operations combining aerial surveillance, naval interdiction, submarine strikes, and missile attacks to degrade regime military infrastructure and response capability. Amphibious forces would move decisively to seize strategic locations, suppress resistance, and isolate loyalist elements. Venezuela's response would center on a hybrid defense, conventional military resistance, militia-based asymmetric warfare, and cartel tactics, designed to sustain illicit networks and slow U.S. advances. This confrontation highlights both sides' strategic priorities, Washington seeking to dismantle narcotics networks and impose regime change pressure through overwhelming technological superiority, while Venezuela relies on numbers, terrain familiarity, and irregular tactics to offset its disadvantages. And finally, there's Russia. Moscow is likely to supply Venezuela with long-range drones such as Shahed or Garin-type systems. These drones could be used for covert strikes against U.S. assets, exploiting their loitering capability to target airfields, command centers, or logistics hubs. Such support would fit into a broader Russian strategy aimed at countering U.S. military pressure through asymmetric means.